Winter is the most abundant time in the food forest. There's fruit trees all over the farm fruiting, thousands of them. So today I'm going to take you on a little tour of everything that's going on the farm. This is a cluster fig or a gula, and they're native to a big region, but they're mostly used in India for cooking different things. We've tried to cook gula ki sabzi from it before, and it was pretty yummy. They're kind of not as sweet as a normal fig, they're a bit different. This is a Monstera deliciosa, and it's a really delicious fruit, but it's all not fruiting at the moment. We just picked the last ones. But it's also, everyone has them as houseplants, but they grow wild here. This is a bush lemon, which is basically just like a normal lemon, but it's a bit more rough, and it's used as the rootstock for lots of different citrus. So this tree was originally a bush lemon, but then it was grafted onto it with an orange tree, I think, so oranges grew on it instead. But the rootstock took over, and now it's back to being a lemon. And it's my favourite thing, because sometimes you can have trees that are half-half when the rootstock starts to come back, so you have some lemons on some sides and then limes on the other, or something ridiculous like that. But they're actually some of my favourite citrus. They're really really juicy and really zesty, and they taste really lemony, kind of. They're amazing. This tree has gotten so big that you can't exactly pick the fruit off it anymore, you have to wait for them to drop, but that's okay. It's a hog plum, which is a fruit that's native to the tropical Americas, and it's really delicious. It has a spiky seed on the inside, which is always weird to come across as you're biting into a fruit, but it tastes kind of sour and sweet at the same time, and I think you can use it for cooking, which I'll have to try. They're also really popular in Asia, and they can be used in lots of different types of cooking. I think that you can sometimes cook them when they're green and then sometimes cook them when they're yellow, when they're ripe, so it's different flavours for each. This is a black sapote, or a chocolate pudding fruit, and it's called that because it tastes just like chocolate pudding. You pick it off the tree and then it begins to soften, and then you can just get a spoon and eat it just like chocolate pudding. It's so delicious, it's so sweet and chocolatey, but they're not ready to pick yet. They still have to fill out a little bit more. They're best in springtime. This is a navel orange tree, and we have two types of oranges on the farm. This navel orange, and then we also have Valencia, and they fruit at different times. So at this time of year we've got these ones, which are delicious and the best thing in the winter. They feel so healthy for you. You get all your vitamin C so you don't get sick, and they're just so good. But then we have the Valencias later on, sort of more in November. It's good to always have an orange. This was once an orange orchard all through here, probably 100 years ago, so I think that this tree is still a remnant of that old orchard, so it's probably 100 years old, I think? That's amazing. An orange off a tree that's 100 years old, and it tastes so delicious. Where did the other one go? I'm not losing a 100-year-old orange. Maybe I've got them. Longons are a fruit that are similar to lychees. They are round and full of this delicious like flesh inside that's so juicy, but they've got kind of a hard skin instead. And they're my favourite. They're a bit more sour than a lychee, but we haven't had many for years because the trees are a bit big and we need to cut them back and look after them a bit better. This is a massive ice cream bean tree and it's so big now, it spreads so far. And ice cream beans taste kind of like ice cream. Less so than the black sapote. I feel like the ice cream bean is a bit of a faker. But they are really yummy. You can kind of suck in the seeds and it tastes like vanilla ice cream. And they fruit in autumn time, sort of late summer. But I haven't had one for a while. Kiwi fruit grow on vines and this orchard stretches so far across the flat. It's massive and we get so many kiwi fruit each year that we're always trying to find new ways to cook from them or new recipes. We've tried to dry them and preserve them or make ice cream from them, all sorts of things. Oh my gosh. The taste of a kiwi straight from the vine is honestly like nothing else in the world. Like the moment that you pick a fruit it starts dying, so by the time things get to supermarkets they've been picked for so long, whereas this has literally been off the vine for 3 seconds and then straight into my mouth, full of fresh flavours. And the nutrients! Oh! Kiwi fruit used to be called Chinese gooseberry and then someone rebranded them to kiwi fruit. And I think it's funny because in Australia it's the only place that we say kiwi fruit and we have to make sure to say the fruit afterwards because we tease people from New Zealand and call them kiwis because their national animal is a kiwi. So if we said we were eating a kiwi, I guess it would be confusing and we have to make sure that we're not talking about the people and we're talking about the fruit. It's this weird Australian thing, but we all say kiwi fruit. Yum. This whole orchard was planted probably 30 years ago by our parents and it needs a bit of love and care. It's falling apart. These are the posts that hold all of the vines up and lots of them have fallen down, so the whole vine is kind of just being held up by itself at the moment, so it's a bit scary and we really need to get in and fix it. Like, it's just grown so much that there's so many vines and they're so heavy and they keep knocking over the poles, so it's a bit of a weird problem because we've just got too much fruit. This flat is an old creek bed and so there's huge rocks in it from when the creek must have run through here thousands of years ago. And it also means you find crystals everywhere, which is so nice. I've found some big crystals this big, it's so beautiful. But it also means that the soil is really alluvial and beautiful and it grows fruit super well. So that's why we have a lot of fruit trees planted down here. A flying fox ate this one. I always feel like a child in this tree. It's so fun to just climb up really high and find avocados in the highest branches. It's 60 years old. It was planted by our grandparents so long ago and it's pretty special to just come here and be fed by the fruit that they planted so long ago. Avocados ripen here on the farm from April through to November, so it's pretty cool to have so many months of the year with fresh avocados. But this is a fuerte tree, so it's the first on the farm to ripen. So we normally come here first and pick off it. And then we move on to different types of species of avocados. There's so many, I always forget all of the names. There's too many to remember. Avocados are maybe my favourite fruit that we grow. They're so good and they can just be used for so many different things. They're delicious. We have more than 30 different macadamia trees on the farm and we haven't really been getting that much fruit from them because again we need to trim them back, but we get it mostly in autumn time, and macadamias actually are native to this small little region between Brisbane and Grafton, so where we are, and they have been kind of made into what they produce fruit bigger now, but they used to be a smaller little nut. And there's some of the original trees that are in these valleys still that were what the macadamia was first based off, which is pretty cool. Now they're majorly grown in South Africa and Hawaii though. This is a loquat tree and it's got fruit coming on. It must be ready soon. But it's also a bit of an invasive weed and I've been finding out more and more how invasive it is. So I'm thinking that we need to be really careful with them and potentially chop these ones down and stop them from producing little weeds everywhere. It's a bit sad because they make a really delicious little yellow fruit that Mum used to make jams from, and you can use it for lots of different things, but because they're invasive, we don't really want them anymore because we don't want them to hurt the environment. As we walk around the food forest, we always make sure to pull as many weeds as we can find. This is a camphor laurel and they're the worst things for this forest. They're super invasive and they have poison in them so they can kind of just stop other plants from growing. So if we see any of these, we pull them out, but they get into massive trees that are so big and then the birds eat their seeds and then drop them. So they're kind of an impossible task, but we keep trying. We're actually not sure what this tree is. It hasn't fruited ever. And maybe it's some sort of custard apple or a soursop or something like that, but maybe the rootstock has come back and that's why it hasn't fruited. But I want to find out what it is, and if it can fruit, I want to try to help it fruit and find out. I've never tasted a soursop, so that would be really exciting. Sheep have an integral role to the food forest. They eat all of the weeds and they kind of protect the orchard by making sure there's nothing too big growing underneath. Like this is a mango orchard here and they've been obviously hanging out here for the day just clearing weeds and eating all the grass. So these are the twins and they love cuddles the most. This is lipstick bush, which is, I think it's a South American thing as well, and you can use it as lipstick. I think it is poisonous maybe, but you kind of just press your finger in there and then it makes this dye. And so yeah, you can paint lipstick or do whatever you want with it. I'm pretty sure that I read that maybe you can use it as a spice as well, but I'm not sure. Because I think I do remember hearing that it was poisonous. I don't know. There's a little mini orchard here, and this is a macadamia, there's another macadamia there, a guava, a big hog plum here, and then this is a grapefruit, and this is why the sheep love this little area so much, because they love hog plums. So they run after all of the fallen fruit and they fight for them and they eat them all, which is really good because it means that fruit flies don't come, and then they're not encouraged to eat the rest of the fruit. This is another pecan orchard on the farm, and it's beautiful, and the trees are so tall now, but they've lost all their leaves in winter and dropped all their nuts to the ground. And then over here there is a rainforest tree section, which is so beautiful. It's got all these rainforest trees in it, and then there's hoop pines coming up, and then it goes down to the water. This is a candlenut, and they're a bit of an invasive weed as well, so we're trying to get rid of as many of them as we can. But they can be used for a bunch of different things. They're called a candlenut because you can light them because they've got oil in them, so you can kind of light them like a candle and they work like that. But also you can use them for tattoo ink and I think some sort of like glue or something. They could be used for everything. It's wild. This is a jaboticabas tree, and they're native to South America, and they have these fruits that grow right on the trunk, and they're kind of like a grape or a cherry. It's a weird, I don't know, they're not like any other kind of fruit, but they're delicious, and they only fruit for a really short period, and you never really know when it's going to be. Normally sometime in the spring, but it normally just happens after we get rain and the tree gets enough water that it just releases all these fruit randomly. And if the sheep find them first, then you have no luck because they'll eat all of them. They love them so much. So you have to find them before the sheep, but the sheep, I think they can smell it. They know. They just always find the fruit first. This is another weed that is just impossible to get on top of, but it's kind of a new one. You can see they've got really, really deep roots, and if you don't get all of the roots, then they just come back. They're called devil's fig, which is very fitting because they're just awful. I hate them. This is the hill paddock, which is the sheep and goats' favourite paddock maybe. It's full of fruit trees and it has a lot of northern facing slopes, so there's lots of trees. These are all big lychee trees, and then there's jumbo trees all across that ridge, probably 20 of them. And then down below there's different guavas and pecans, and then there's heaps of starfruit over this side and lots of avocados as well. There's a lot of fruit in here. This orchard was mostly planted by our grandfather probably 60 years ago, and he was so proud of it. He planted it, and apparently he would brush cut almost every day to try to keep on top of the weeds. But now we've got sheep and goats, so we don't need to brush cut them here because the sheep and goats do it for us. So I think he'd be very happy with that. It's starfruit season. There's so many on. Oh my gosh. They're these fun star-shaped fruit, which is ridiculous. They're also called carambola. And I don't know if you can cook much with them. We've made chutneys before, but they're good to just eat. Just bite into. Yum. Yes! Look at how long that root is! That's disgusting! Lantana is our third invasive weed enemy. We spend so long pulling it out and it always comes back. It can take over whole hillsides. It is so invasive. It just loves this climate. It was originally brought here as a cute flower for your hedges, which is wild because it's so ugly to me. I look at it and I go, disgusting, but someone thought it was pretty. This is how big the Acantha laurel can get if you don't pull it out early when it's a tiny seedling. Or I've seen them way bigger than this. They can get a metre wide, or bigger actually. And this was a little forest of campers in here, but we got them cut down about a year ago, and they're trying to reshoot, but we have the goats in here to eat all the reshoots off. It's just that they haven't been in this paddock for a few weeks because we found a big hole in the fence and we've been trying to fix it. So once that hole is fixed, the goats will come in here and eat their favourite special treat, camphor laurel. We just wanted to thank our patrons for making this possible for us to get on top of all these invasive weeds and get the equipment to help us out to always be fighting the uncontrollable growth. We are so thankful, and we're able to plant lots of new trees because of it, so it means so much to us. We cleared this whole area, and because of it we noticed this beautiful red cedar behind me coming back, and it's so beautiful, and right now there's a kookaburra sitting in it that looks so happy, and it's one of those moments that really makes you feel so proud of the little tiny things that we're doing here seem to make a difference.